Here we go again, Jake. You dragged me out of my peaceful cabin down into town.
Yeah, I just want to show you this childhood memory we used to have with Pops. Remember that?
Yeah, I have plenty of childhood memories back in my cabin. I don't like coming down to town, Jake.
Well, here it is, Randy. Check out this big, huge ship. A lot of history.
Oh, yeah, Jake, I know this ship. Is this the ship that old Dad used to tell us about?
Yeah, the campfire, the yacht.
No. It was a warship. It wasn't a yacht.
Well, yeah, Randy, it was a yacht. You know how it was built. The guy was born Joseph Percy Bartram. He was born in 1870 in Brooklyn, New York. And him and his dad got involved with the sugar industry. He became a sugar tycoon. Anyway, him and his dad owned a bunch of sugar plantations in Santo Domingo.
So, where's that? Is that south of Eureka somewhere?
No, that's right next to Haiti. It's pretty close to Cuba as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they became really wealthy. They were a really wealthy family. And Joseph retired at age 50. And he had this ship, he had German engineers and Americans work on this ship right here. And then that was in 1922. And in 1925, it was launched in Boston, Massachusetts. Bartram would take this ship to the south during the winter time when it was really cold and try to warm up. And in fact, he was friends with Sir Thomas Lipton.
Whoa, Lipton, Jake, that name's real familiar. Where do I know that from?
Randy, Lipton was the founder of the Lipton Tea Company.
Oh!
And they were friends, Randy. Well, anyway, one time Lipton got aboard the ship and the two of them went to see the American Cup together. You know, Randy, it's pretty amazing. You got a sugar tycoon and you have a tea tycoon, both standing on the bow of that ship, watching the American Cup. And Lipton had a bunch of yachts competing in the American Cup, and that's why they were watching. They were good friends. It took two 125 horsepower engines to make this ship move in the ocean. And you know how fast it would go, Randy? 12 miles per hour. But that's pretty much what I remember what Dad told me about everything.
Jake, I think I figured this out. Okay, you must have heard the first part of the story from Dad around the campfire, and you didn't hear the second part of the story. The second part of the story is what he told me. So it was a war. We were both right. It was a fancy yacht, and then afterwards it became a warship. And I'm going to tell you how this ship became a warship, how it went from a yacht to a warship.
Yeah, and then what happened to him? Yeah, because I don't know, because he lived to 1948 and he died at the age of 76. And last I knew, he had this ship with him because he loved it so much.
Well,
so I don't know what happened after that.
Settle in, Jake, because I got quite a story to tell you about this former yacht turned into a warship. Well, it's kind of funny here. We were squabbling over whether it's a yacht or a warship, and it turns out it was both.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we get into these little spats, Jake, I guess we need to talk things out and not jump so quick to start arguing about it, you know?
So you remember a lot what Dad told you, huh?
Oh, yeah, but he told me all the part from where it started in World War II, and that's what I'm going to tell you.
Oh, well, I'd love to hear that, Randy.
Yeah. See, what happened was after World War II started, the U.S. Navy requisitioned this ship from Mr. Bartram. They actually told him he had no choice. He had to give it to the U.S. Navy.
He had to?
He had no choice. It was wartime rule. They paid him a compensation for it. I don't know what it was, but you mentioned Bartram died a few years later. Could be he died of a broken heart because he lost his fancy yacht. Who knows?
That's too bad.
Yeah, but I guess during the World War II, they were desperate. So, World War II, the U.S. Navy took a hold of this fancy yacht and they added a few things, some guns and things, and made it into a military ship in the Navy.
Wow.
They stationed it in Hawaii at Pearl Harbor, and it would do patrols. It would do patrols around the island. It would escort convoys and that sort of thing.
Was it there during the bombing of Pearl Harbor?
No, it was actually taken to the harbor after the bombing.
Oh, okay.
So while the Pearl Harbor was being bombed, they had requisitioned this and they were working on it, fixing it up into a warship.
So that's why they needed the ship so bad for the war.
Yeah,
The war effort.
I guess that's the way they did it in those days.
Yeah.
So the ship was based out of Pearl Harbor during the entire war, and it just worked all around the Hawaiian Islands. It did convoys and patrols.
Did it see any military combat or anything?
Well, that's a funny story, Jake. It actually did see two instances that are known where this ship was almost sunk. by friendly fire.
How'd that happen?
Well, what happened was this ship was sort of unusual. It didn't look like the normal military ships.
Yeah.
So the U.S. Navy at one point thought it was an enemy ship, and they almost fired on it, and they stopped at the last minute.
Oh, that was a good thing. All right.
Yeah, good thing they caught that. And then the second instance was a B-29 bomber saw it in the distance out in the ocean, thought it was an enemy ship because it didn't look like a military ship. It was going in for a bombing run, had its bay doors open, ready to...
They were open with...
Yeah, the bay doors, they were ready to drop a bomb on this ship,
Yeah.
and they stopped at the last minute. So it had 2 close calls by friendly fire.
Wow.
Okay, so when the war ended, they realized this ship wasn't needed anymore. They were done with it, so they said, time to send it back to California. On its way to California, it was part of a whole naval fleet, and a big hurricane hit. This is 1945. Big hurricane slammed in there, and when it was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, between California and Hawaii.
Yeah, on the way back.
On the way back.
And it was such a bad hurricane storm, it sunk 3 naval destroyers.
But it didn't hurt this one.
It almost sank this ship, but it didn't sink. This ship held tough.
Not bad for a $500,000 ship, huh, Randy?
Yeah, not bad for a fancy yacht. Anyway, it limped its way after the hurricane into the California coast, and that's when the Navy said, we don't need it anymore, and they got rid of it as scrap.
Did they give it back to the original owner?
No, I don't know the story. I don't know why they did. Probably the original owner said, I don't want this ship anymore. You guys put guns and everything else on it.
Yeah, he was older anyway, and you know.
Well, he wasn't that old, but apparently he
Probably
could
didn't
have
want guns on his yacht.
Yeah.
Why would he want it back? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Navy took all the guns off of it. So now shift to 1949 up here on the Smith River. There was a family that operated a little riverside resort. It was called Castle Rock Resort.
Castle Rock Resort.
Yeah, not too far from here on the Smith River.
Yeah.
And so they bought this ship to tow to their Castle Rock Resort right on the Smith River. So they actually floated it all the way up from Southern California up the coast and up the Smith River. And that was in late 1940s, and it was a big deal. People came out from everywhere to see this big ship come in up the Smith River.
Yeah.
And finally it came up the Smith River, and the Circa family docked it, and for the next 20 years it was part of the Castle Rock Resort.
And it was in the water.
It was in the water, in the river. The family...
Over there somewhere, probably.
Yeah, not too far from here. The family lived in it, they had a restaurant in it, and it served its purpose. Well, so after around 15, 20 years, the Circas decided to retire out of the resort business. They didn't want to operate the Castle Rock anymore. That was in 1964. So they put this ship up for sale. Yeah. Well, you're gonna be surprised at who bought it. Along came 2 brothers, Hank and Chopper.
Chopper, yeah, I heard a lot about Chopper. Dad
Yeah.
told us a lot of stories at the Timberlane fires about Chopper.
Yeah, that's right. Chopper was our dad's foreman when Dad worked at the Alexander Dairy in the 1950s.
Alexander, yeah, what a small world, huh, Randy?
Yep. He and Chopper became good friends.
Wow.
Yeah, so our family kind of has a connection to this ship.
Yeah, old Chopper, I remember him.
Okay, so Chopper and Hank were big dreamers. They had this idea of 1964 when they bought it, they were gonna pull it up out of the Smith River up to this place, this huge ship.
Okay, how'd they do that?
Well, they got 12 tractors. They hooked it up to the ship, and let me tell you, it wasn't easy, Jake. They had to put logs under it. They had to cut a V because it kept trying to tip it over. It took them 10 hours,
10 hours
with these tractors to finally drag this ship up right here to this location.
gosh.
And they did it.
I won't think that's a pretty heavy ship, Randy.
It's a huge ship, man. Good old Hank and Chopper did it, though.
Wow.
Got to hand it to him. So Hank and Chopper ended up being turned into a museum. They had sort of an eclectic museum. They had a rock displays in there. They had wax figures. They had some military relics, all kinds of different things in here. And there was a gift shop, and it was a tourist destination. In fact, you remember when we were kids, Dad used to take us into the ship.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. We used to
It was
come.
good to see this ship again, huh? I'm Randy.
Yeah, now you can't get on it anymore. But so sadly, in 2013, that was the end. It was shut down, and no one else has been allowed on it since then.
Yeah, but it sure holds a lot of fascinating history, doesn't it, Randy? I hope you're enjoying the show. Hey, Randy and I really wanted to show you inside the ship and on the deck and everything to see kind of what it looked like, but we couldn't. So what we ended up doing, we attached our camera to a stick and we walked around the boat, around the ship, and we put the camera through the ship, some of the holes and on top of the deck, and that's what you're going to see next in the footage. So enjoy the show. And here are some photos I found online.
Well, I sure learned a lot from you today, Randy.
Well, we learn from each other, Jake. That's a good thing.
Yeah, like Dad always said, a lot of campfire and everyone has a story.
That's a good one, Jake.
Yeah, Randy and I'm glad you stopped by and watched our video. We should have more coming up, and we got to head back to the Timberlane Ranch and light a campfire and tell more stories. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.